Welcome back to the Buck Junkie podcast, guys. We're back in the studio today. Mark, Mikey, Jamie, how y'all doing today, fellas?
Recuperating.
Yeah, recuperating.
Have a big weekend?
Long weekend for
in
all of
the
us.
field or what? No, we were. We had a local barbecue contest we were in, and Mark, you went up to Illinois and see deer up there.
Did not see a first deer. I might have us the hookup on some deer hunting. So if them boys are listening, we're finna hold you to it. So
Hey, I ain't scared. I've been up there hunting big Pike County bucks before. They're fun to hunt.
No.
Different breed of animal.
Yeah, Jamie and Mikey didn't hear this, but we had a contest up in Murfreesboro, Illinois, and after awards, and we had a really good cook and stuff like that. Some guys come up that we've met before and got to talking, and they got a pretty good sized farm up there. And he showed me a picture of a deer he killed last year, and I want to say he said it was 201 is what it scored.
That's a man.
And he showed some pictures on their cameras, and he's got some to back it.
They're having a big EHD outbreak up there. I've seen people posting. There's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook was taking pictures. They were riding up a creek or a small river or something, and he said they were finding dead deer everywhere. They knew what was up with it, but it's that hemorrhage. I don't know how to say it, but it's where I guess they have to go to water, and that's where they end up dying. Hemorrhagic disease or whatever. Do y'all know what it is?
I've heard of all of them, but I don't know a lot about some of them.
Yeah, it sounds bad. I mean, I thought it was blue tongue the way he was describing it, but it wasn't blue tongue. It's a different one that affects they get it from these midge flies. It spreads it around. Yeah, they're hoping like if they get early frost, it kills them, and it's not as hard on the herd. But that EHD's everywhere, and I guess they contaminate by either biting deer and moving to other deer, or they carry the disease or whatever, and that's how they spread it. It spreads through the herd, and it does some devastating.
I wonder if it can get in the water.
I don't know if it gets in the water, but it makes the deer want to go to water. But it acts a lot like the CWD does, where the deer just are out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it attacks their brain or causes them to have fever or whatever, but when you see videos of these deer, they'll just be standing there and let you get right up on them like they don't know what's going on. Yeah. Usually when it's got that bad, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, because you can imagine, like, when you get fever, you get dehydrated and stuff like that. Yeah. So you're going to be at water trying to drink and, trying to rehydrate yourself, and deer knows what's wrong with his body. So, that probably, I wonder if it does get in the water, if they die in the water.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it could.
But on a lighter note, we went from killing big deer to
talking about diseases, huh?
No, but they were very open about getting us up there and doing a little hunting, and told them I ain't no bow hunter, but I can fire a rifle real good, so.
They've got, I know when I've been before, they have like a shotgun muzzleloader season, and then they have a late muzzleloader season as well.
I think
no rifle season whatsoever. You better not show up with a rifle.
I think now they have the straight wall cartridge law. I think where if any straight wall cartridge, so 45-70, 350 Legend, anything like that,
it could still be a modern platform
platform, but straight wall cartridge.
We got something.
We got something for that.
Yeah,
but. No, I'm going to follow up with them guys, see if we can't get something set up. It may not be this year, but, hey, we can get it on the books, that's for sure.
I'd love to go hunting up there again. I had a buddy that they bought a piece of property, then they leased some too, and, man, this was been probably 10 years ago, and they were killing some big deer, but then I guess CWD hit up there and wiped out a big population of it, so it's not as prevalent as it was. Used to, that's all you heard was Pike County.
Yeah.
That was where everybody went.
There's a bunch of corn. It ain't quite Indiana corn up there, but it's a bunch of corn.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of ag up there.
Well, what'd y'all get done last week on the farm?
Shoot. Put in some work.
Eat a bunch of dust.
Yeah.
Man, it's so dry.
It's bad.
Yeah,
disc won't even hardly break.
Yeah, Mikey, you got what, 4 or 5 plots disc up, or the grass not back on it anyway?
Yeah, we disc up all the stuff on Salem, and then the hilltop stand and get all the cross lanes and all that stuff disc up, but it does make a difference when you're disking if the ground is soft or if it's had rain or not had rain. It's
pretty much like concrete right now.
Yeah,
that's all we're waiting on is a rain event. If we can get one forecasted out and get the rest of the seed in the ground, we're gonna be okay. And it's okay with these heavily cereal grain plots anyway.
They're gonna come up pretty quick.
I mean, you like to have the turnip plots in now, and did you see any of them popping where we did plant seeds when you and the boys planted?
Yeah.
We got some germination, got some stuff up?
Yeah, we've got some down there behind the pond. That field down there that's in the shade, and then that little clover plot that's back to the end of the pond levee, those are popped up. So there's clover out there.
Yeah.
All some of those came up.
Turnips
Some of the ones
come
out in some of the turnips are up. The Heartbreak Ridge, that plot.
That looks pretty good.
That thing came up good.
Yeah.
But it's real shady.
It's shaded, yeah, but the ground's, I think
Ground's
the
good.
ground's
It
stays
stays moist.
Yeah, it stays moist.
That's always good.
Done that and got on the lane chart, got it on the tractor, and we knocked out pretty much all the north property line road.
So trails are clean.
Yeah, I like
pretty
just a little bit more. I had hydraulic lines start leaking on me, and I didn't get it finished. But other than that,
Yeah, the hydraulic line shut us down.
that lane chart put in work. We done a lot with it.
Oh, that's a bad tool. You just got to come back and bush hog what drops, right?
Yeah, it makes a mess on the ground. I mean, but it's
Better than a pole saw.
it is better than a pole saw, no doubt.
Better on your back anyway, right?
We'll just leave them limbs laying. We'll have something for it next month. We'll clean them up real good.
The mulcher.
The mulcher will be here. So get that rolling. That'll be a benefit. At least getting a little close to hunting season, but we can knock some stuff out without being too invasive for sure.
Yeah, because we ain't gonna be planting for a while because I ain't seeing no rain.
No rain at all this week.
But bow season opens here,
October 1st.
yeah, next weekend, right?
Yeah.
Dang. That's fast, boy. Y'all ready?
No.
You ain't go to bow hunt?
I ain't fighting no mosquitoes.
They're
Can't
still
do it.
bad. I'm just glad to see cooler temps because last week we were 100 degrees. Now we're going to see some. I think I saw 48 for the low one night this week.
Yeah.
So that's dipping down there. That's what we need. Now we're not still. I don't think we're close to a frost date yet, but hopefully by the end of the month we'll get one.
They said we get a frost. I think right at the end of October is our frost date. Something I looked it up, and
That's what I'm waiting on.
like the 23rd or 25th. Usually we're subject to get a light frost by then.
Where we at on moving stands? Have we still
We still got one to move.
big one
We got
tower?
to move the big tower, the actual Trump stand to where South Trump was. Me and Jamie got the other one over to Salem.
Property. It
We had
just
to-
needs to be set down in the woods.
Yeah, we had to sturdy it up and put some more boards on the frame, and we got it sitting up there on the landing. All we got to do is put it down in there because Jamie went down there and lane sharked that area so we could get down in there to it.
It's a pretty straight shot.
Kind of. But it's a whole lot better now. And then when we get that mulcher, we'll clean out below it, and you should have pretty good shooting lanes.
That's going to be a little hot spot right there.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of deer come through that bottom.
Oh, it's trails now in there that's even with pine needles on the ground, it's real obvious trails.
That and there's I told you down, but we found that one pear tree.
Yeah.
That whole bottom's
Loaded
full of-
up.
Yeah,
Loaded
they're
up
everywhere.
Wild pears. I saw that when I rode through the other day.
Me and
I'm
Jamie was down in there and they were blowing at us.
Yeah, we had
Were
deer
they?
below it
Yeah,
that
we
day.
walked down in there, was looking, and
Yeah.
deer were blowing at us. So they were either laying or down in there feeding.
It's a good, cool spot down in there.
Yeah, we never did see them.
Did you go buy you some rifle shells after last week?
After last week?
Yeah, after the podcast. You said you was
Yeah,
going to go buy rifle
Yeah,
shells.
talk about 308s, they can be sold out.
Oh, I already bought them. I had them bought up.
Stockpile.
Yeah, I keep 2 boxes at camp, 2 in the truck, 2 at the house. So I got plenty of them.
Well, Jamie, you got a scientific topic
it's
going on.
It's got out of hand. I thought it'd be an easy subject or easy topic, I guess. But so talking about genetics, like we're talking about always planting food plots and just a couple of deer we watch on camera that we want to take out possibly. But what all do we actually really know about genetics and how it plays into contact with the property you have, the deer you have, and just I don't know. Like so, starting out, can you really cull out? Everybody talking about cull deer. Can you really cull genetics out?
I've always been under the impression that you really can't.
I don't think you can.
Because, you'd have to have such a big area that you were,
Correct.
because the way the most people I know that hunt don't have vast thousands of acres like you see some of these farms have.
No.
We're talking 200 or 300 acre little farms that we have. Those deer's range is way beyond our property. So no matter what you do on yours,
Your
I don't know,
neighbors
you're
might have
gonna-
one.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll ever stop.
I mean, the only way I could see it even possibly, say you got a cull buck like Sling Blade we killed last year. Say you have that buck every year. He's going to pass that genetics on. And the only way you're going to be able to get that out, you're going to have to kill that buck in bow season. You're not going to be able to let it go to Thanksgiving and the rut starts because, how many does is that buck going to breed a year? And you just want from him passing his genetics on to 5 does, for instance. So now you got 5 of them out there
that have it.
Yeah.
And if that doe has twins,
There you go again.
you're doubling and tripling it every go around.
I don't know.
I don't know if rack shape or what that rack looks like is really genetics.
Yeah, if it passes
Some of
on.
it is, but some of it's injury, some of it's disease, some of it's they may have bumped that. Something might have happened to that when they were in velvet.
Yeah, when the horn is still soft.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the biologist said is that a lot of that like we had that one horn genetic, and I told him about that. And he said probably a lot of that's not genetics, Mikey. It's a bacteria that they get in their horns during velvet season. He said if they get to horsing around one another and rubbing on one another and their horns touch, they pass it that easy, one to the next one. And so the next year, that bacteria may affect that deer. It may affect him right then.
So go ahead.
No, you first.
Well, I was going to say that big 6 that I shot last year, when we took it to Rob the Skull Man, he brought it to our attention. He said, look at the bottom of the horns. He said they've got this like a rot almost on them. And he said he's never seen that before.
He almost wondered if it never shed. If he's had them antlers for years.
Yeah, because it was already starting to break down just on the underbelly of that big beam, the main beams. And he was like, that shouldn't, that's probably why that deer was a 6 and never going to be anything but a 6. It had some kind of problem. I don't know. That wasn't necessarily genetics. It was probably some kind of bacteria or something that got in them. But it still looks like that. Even after he skull mounted it, you can tell where that was.
So I wish, looking back, all right, when we first started putting cameras out, we had how many jacked up racks behind the house? I mean, it was
just about all of the deer.
I mean, it was bad. And what do you think? Now we don't see that as bad. So do you think it's because we've created a healthier habitat, that they're getting more protein, that they're getting more nutrients they need, or did we eliminate that?
There's no way we eliminate.
Yeah, I think it has to do more with probably
they got a better place to eat.
Better place to eat.
They're getting better nutrients. That's one thing that's going to affect them. There is them getting more nutrients of what we're putting out and stuff like that. But like Jamie, me and him were talking the other day when he was getting ready to do these topics, and your does have that genetic also.
Yeah. They're carrying it and passing it on just as much as the bucks are.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, that's on down to topics, but the doe is what, let's see, what's it? It influences the genetics more than the buck. The buck pretty much is going to be, the buck's genetics determines whether it's going to be a buck or doe, yearling or fawn.
Yeah. But it don't have necessarily nothing to do with the type of rack he's going to have on his head.
Not necessarily.
You think, that fawn, if it's a buck, it's breastfeeding. And if that mama's not healthy, it's not getting nutrients, in the early stages when it's newborn,
Yeah. So what do you here's what I think, that people use that culling out genetics for a reason to kill inferior bucks. I mean, I really do. I think if you see these, what people always said, you got to kill them cow horn spikes, or you got to kill that deer who's messed up on one side.
I mean,
you go ahead and take him out, And that's what everybody says, right?
Yeah. On the spikes, for sure. That's what everybody thinks. And
that's one of your topics on here. Is it a spike? Is it always a spike?
Yeah.
Did I get too far ahead?
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to go.
We're going to snowball this one.
So that's definitely not true, because I seen the research they done on. Now this is on a caged animal, and they've done some on wild ones too. But they did one on a caged animal. It was a spike the first year it came out, which it was born late. I think is why they said sometimes they're subject to have spikes. Or a button head, instead of a button head, he'll just get up a little bit higher. But not to say that you got something that's, I've seen spikes that were 5 years old that had nothing on them, but these little bitty spikes, they probably were born late, and you don't really need to shoot them. And in that research that they done, or that I can't even remember who done it, but anyways, like the next year the deer had a 6-point rack. The next year he had a little 8-point rack. By the time he got 5 years old, this deer was like a 180-inch deer. It was a monstrous freaking deer, and he started out as a spike.
That's what this is. I got a lot of this information from the Mossy Oak site, but that's what it was saying. 90, or I don't remember the exact percentage, but the higher percentage of your spikes were born late season, and it all kind of links back around to the population control on your land. Like the buck to doe ratio gets out of whack, and that's what causes majority of your late breeding. Because there's no way a buck can keep up with that many does.
That many does, yeah.
I mean, I think we've done a prime example of, when we first got that property right there at Cypress Corner, there was nothing for a deer to eat. I mean, it was sagegrass, farmland. If it wasn't natural acorns or something in the woods that they could eat, they had nothing. And we had terrible pictures of bucks. I mean, and now we've eliminated that. Now, again, everything's based on nutrition. Got to be.
DNA, nutrition, protein's the main.
I think that helps that helps your fawns when they're healthy to go and promote them to grow bigger racks because the does, the mamas that are nursing, are getting nutrition. So their milk's more nutritious for it. And then when they get weaned off milk and get on food, they've got something to eat. They've got the minerals in place in the ground because it's in the food they're consuming too. So that all that promotes bigger antler growth.
See, everybody gets this misconception about antler size coming from the buck deer. That's where you can get your horns from. But yeah, just like you said, it all goes back to protein from the mama deer, the doe, what she's got. If she's not healthy, you're not going to have a stud buck come from her. I mean,
I believe that. I believe that.
And I mean, how long have we had since we've really started focusing on food down there?
Well, the first year we did fall food plots, but we didn't really do year round.
Right.
Last year was the first year we did year round.
Which one? We had clover.
Actually, this was the second year because once we put in clover, we did manage.
Right.
We maintained the spring clover. Now in the summer, it all played out. But I think, was it year before last when we planted a first big sunflower crop, and they had some other stuff in there that they ate.
Beans. We had beans out. They pretty much
for a week.
Yeah.
we had beans for a little bit.
We had peas in the summer. So we were doing some summer stuff then. Then last year we really focused on it, and we maintained and made sure all of our plots went to a summer rotation. And so that we're really noticing it this year. And then, so we've had cameras out pretty much since
day one,
July.
It was July.
After turkey season, we took them up, and then we put them out back in mid-July, I think it was, just to see, because that's the earliest normally it's like right now.
Yeah.
We're cameraing right now, but so we could see the development of these deer from July, and usually they're taxed. They're skinny. They're looking horrible.
Yep.
But we've seen big, healthy doe this year, and then the fawns look fantastic. And I just noticed a set of fawns the other day that look like they're not, they've been born. They've been born like just a month ago. I mean, there's different stages of them, but that shows us that we've still had some does that didn't drop till late last year.
But you look that vetch, dude. That's them mamas are carrying them fawns out there every day.
There was a picture. It might have been last week. Me and Jamie seen
all
it.
them deer.
No. There was 2 or 3 grown does. 2 of them were stood up on it. Yeah, they were fighting on their hind legs. But you look out there and all you see is fawn heads. You see like the top of their heads
everywhere,
and it was like 5 or 6 of them out there just bedded down.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm telling you, that vetch.
Some bad
sold
stuff.
on it.
That's some bad stuff.
It's definitely
stuff
going
great.
back in for our summer. That's going to be the primarily of our summer plot mix. We're going to up that.
Yeah,
it can withstand pressure. We don't in that area. How big is that field? 2 acres tops.
it ain't even that. Yeah,
acre and a half maybe.
Yeah,
and it's probably supported, no joke, at 20 plus deer every day.
Every day,
almost around the clock. Those deer are there. Anytime you go out there, you'll run deer out of that field. And there's times and now it's full of turkey and deer. If y'all noticed that, the turkeys have found it. I don't know if they're picking the bugs out of it. Probably is what they're doing.
they probably eat that vetch too, though.
Yeah, but there is some clover popping in it that came back up too. It's just a perennial that we had in there. But and that's one reason why we're going to have some later stage food plots this year is because we've kept that food source. We didn't go in and spray every bit of food plot we had coming off summer to get ready for these fall plots. We're staggering them.
That's right.
It's going to put us having some late plots, but it kept nutrition and it kept those deer during the season when they really that midway through July through hot as it stood in September, that's really the months that you have to worry about food. And if you think about it, most people are out of food by then.
Yeah.
Well, your antler's pretty much a 4-month your
growth cycle. Yeah,
4-month growth cycle. So that's why the spring protein, clover, whatever we can get out there that's pure protein is the best way to go.
And that was our main focus. Is the health of our deer herd. Is getting them healthy first. And we manage the numbers by what we do, but keeping which deer we have out there as healthy as we possibly can. To try to get the best results out of the deer that we have.
And we do see, different genetics in our herd. I mean, we're hill deer where we are. Yeah. We're not quite Delta region, so our deer are naturally smaller animals. We're not going to kill very many 200-pound plus deer.
No,
it's just not going to happen. I don't care how much food you have out there for them.
What was the biggest buck we killed? 180
something pounds last year, and he may have been a 4-year-old buck.
Yeah.
The old sling blade buck. Did we weigh him?
We didn't weigh him, but by looking at him, I would say that was the biggest buck.
He was right in there at the beginning of the rut too.
He
We
was
did-
wrote on the board.
Oh, was it?
We didn't have a scale for him
Yeah,
at the time. The first one we weighed was Wheels, I think.
yeah.
I
Well,
think.
Because I weighed a bunch of deer once we got to scale the does and everything.
yeah.
They
We
were
tried.
wrote on the
We
board.
tried to, record all of it now.
Just looking back at pictures, Sling Blade, he had the biggest neck, biggest head, shoulder up deer that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
So this year we are going to do jawbone and get a better age on our bucks and
That's
does
what.
we
That's
have.
the goal. I think we need to do it with every deer.
I agree,
Because you
yeah.
want to know what's going on with it, what stage they're in. I mean,
I want to know an average of what we're killing, just to educate us. Are we shooting the right age group
Well, I mean-
or not?
So what on this Mossy Oak information I got, that's what it says is a buck's allowed to make it to at least 3 years old to even to where you need to determine was actually a so-called cull buck really.
Genetic
quick. Yeah, it's not. It's
phenomenon.
not. I mean, it might be a spike, like Mike said earlier. That one deer might be a spike for 2 to 3 years or 4 point.
Well, we've moved our stuff to looks like this year. I mean, we may not have done this in the past, but like this year, I mean, if it's not a 3-year-old deer, we're not shooting that deer. It's got to be at least 3 years, and not because you just told me that, but
Yeah, I mean,
that was just to kind of give them an opportunity to
General.
get to something.
yeah, I
But-
agree.
But it doesn't mean that you don't take out cull bucks either, though. I mean, some of you bucks, like the biologist said, he said if you see one he's jacked up, he's been jacked up a couple years, and he's stayed that way. It don't mean leave him in the herd. You kind of need to get him off the field if you have a high population of deer.
So I'm with you on that, but I don't think the importance is because you're changing the racks and the bucks to come.
Yeah.
I think it's because you take a buck like that who's got a messed up side. He's going to, when those bucks get to fighting, when it comes hard rut, he's
Yeah.
going to destroy and break off more racks by not having that uniform shape. And we've seen that
He's going to mess up
time
your good
after
deer.
time. You take an old, mean, cold-looking deer, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
a cold deer with a bad set of horns, when they get to locking up, he's breaking stuff off.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these clubs, I've seen them, they'll say they have rules where we shoot everything that's not an 8-point, when it's young.
Yeah.
So, like, if they got a spike or they got a little 3-point or 4-point or something, a lot of people have the mindset, well, they need to kill that deer, but those are trophy clubs.
Yeah.
They're trying to produce these 10, 12-point racks when they're grown and take out all those lesser ones. But I don't really think that's the way to do it on the young bucks.
No, but I mean, if you give him an opportunity and he ain't changed after a couple of years, it's time to go ahead and
Yeah.
get him out.
and that that falls back. That's the advantage of running cameras. You can, if
Try
you
to
kept a
see.
good record of all, for last year's deer, the year before last, and even some we got on camera this year. We look back, so that's the same deer that was last year, and he done stepped up a notch
Well,
from
see,
last
that's
year.
what bothers me is like identifying a deer. We're trying to identify him by a rack. And
It's
last
hard.
year we had a lot of one-horn deer, and the year before that was a lot of one-horn deer running around there. This year, not so many.
Yeah, I've noticed that. We hadn't seen them. And
So
I
those
mean-
bucks may be those one-horn deer, and they
Progressed
grew
up.
out.
they got what they needed and grew
Put
into
on better
a
rack.
decent
Yeah.
deer.
I mean, everybody looks awkward in their teenage years, so maybe they finally grew out of it a little bit.
I have noticed in the young ones, like we've seen, there's a lot of spikes on cameras this year, but they're matched up
There's-
spikes. They're not mismatched.
There's one spike on, I can't remember what camera it was, he's a man.
Yeah.
Like, he's got 12, 14-inch spikes.
I don't think that's an old deer, though.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be. I mean, when I was a kid hunting out there by the house, it was a spike. We seen it 4 years in a row, and it was probably 18-inch wide spike. It was huge, and
Every year.
it never changed in them 3 years we saw it. For sure, it stayed a spike. It never had a brow tine or nothing on it.
I think it was just the nutrition it was getting around the house. There wasn't
There's
much
plenty of
more to it.
nutrition at our house at the time. It was a lot of bean fields, but I just think
Well, it
that
was.
could have been a bad genetic passed on to it,
And
or an injury or something that did cause it to be that way.
something too that I think we need to say is we're not scientists by no means. We
That's
are
right.
we are shooting from the hip on
It's our
this what we've seen.
speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff we've seen, and we may be right on a lot of it. We may be wrong with some of it, but we're going to learn as we go. And we've learned a ton in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, no doubt. And some of this stuff we've seen, like say Sling Blade, like I wish we would have aged that deer.
Yeah.
Like I think he was 3 maybe, but who knows?
We seen him. I mean, we saw him 2 years.
2
for
years in a
sure.
row, I know
So
for sure.
I mean, more than likely, it was 3 or 4. More than
But
likely.
he carried that same Sling Blade both years.
I think it must have been an injury or something to him too. The way it was. There used to be another deer running around there like that. It was super palmated, And I've never heard of anybody killing that
we
deer or
never
what
did.
happened to
We
him.
hadn't seen him at all this year.
But he would have been like he was a 12 back then.
Yeah.
When we seen him, it had a moose look to him. It was just all palmated up.
Well, that
We never saw him during hunting season, so that was
which
I
a
don't know
lot
what
of
happened to him, if he died or somebody else got him. We just didn't hear about it.
a lot of people already know this, and I never really thought about it in depth. But when I talked to that taxidermist in Indiana, he said if somebody brings him a whole deer and he dresses it out, and something looks off, like maybe a brow tine looks different than one side, or a G1, whatever, something's different about that rack. He said he's going to look at their nuts, regardless. And he's like, you may not notice. Everybody says, well, if they lose them or get them hung on a fence, they're not going to ever shed another antler. He's like, but he said, if you get down there and look, and he says it's a scratch or a scar, he said they may still have them, but they just took an injury to it, and you wouldn't notice it normally, and that's 100% what it is. He said 90% of the time you can look, and he said if you see something off, he said they might just have a scar right there in their groin area, right there by them, and he said that's what causes it.
I'm glad I ain't got to jump barbed wire fences.
It'd be bad.
Yeah, it'd be real bad.
But back to the beginning. Yes, you're not going to change the genetics. I don't think personally. Can you improve them with protein and population control? Yes, I do think you can. But
So that's the ultimate really goal you can have as far as like small property management.
yeah, because one of these articles I read, I don't remember if it was the Mossy Oak one or not, but it was like they did different studies, and if you had in thousands of acres, the genetic stuff can be somewhat managed because you know what's on it. But when you got a buck on your property that's going next door next property, and it's just different.
True free range.
Yeah, it's just different.
So like in a high fence area, they know, a lot of those guys, they'll go ahead and they'll kill every deer on the place when they high fence it.
Well,
and then they'll bring in their genetic. Yeah, then they'll bring in their genetics, and they're controlling it that way. And so if they see spikes or something, that's probably going to be inferior deer to them, so they take them out. But
so that's what I don't have this really on our topic. But that's what kind of read over in some of this stuff I looked at was a lot of these deer coming from these deer farms, and there's a ton of mixed reviews on deer farms, pros and cons. But they are pretty much almost developing them genetics on the deer farms to be that buck that everybody wants.
yeah,
I wonder what they do with
Big
those
money.
deer farms when they go, like, just say they go bankrupt. Now you
They
got
close
all
it.
these deer and they got all this stuff.
Well, I can tell you, some of the prices I've seen, I don't know how. They're getting six figures for does.
You just open the gate and let the deer go, or
a lot of times they don't have to do that because I've seen some where storms come through, knock their fence down.
rip the fence up.
Them deer get out or they get exposed to other animals, and there's nothing they can do about it. And a lot of times that's how, they think some of these diseases got out, like CWD and stuff like that. They could have been brought in from something from somewhere else. Some of those animals escape, and it happens with exotics too, not just whitetails. You see, places where these red stags are at. There's places in Mississippi where they've got out, and there's nothing they can do about it.
I do remember Wally.
That's what I was going to say.
One time we went over there and he had a deer. It was probably 170, 180 inch deer, and all the points were blunt. And I'm like, man, what the heck? And he said that's what it was. That was a deer that was transported in a cattle trailer. The points were cut off so it didn't hurt itself or another deer, and it got out and this guy killed it. But it was a man.
Well, you can imagine, say if you got 1,000 acres or whatever it is, the high fence, maintaining the fence,
Just a fence line.
Yeah, that's to keep a wild animal in. That's got to be hard to do. It's got to be.
I would like to do that. It's 3 or 4 deer farms right there in Alabama, 3.5, 4 hours from us. And I'd love to go just
See it.
to see it.
Really, I've never been to one. I passed them in Texas and on the road and stuff.
But yeah, you're getting $80,000, $40,000 for deer or genetics. That's
It's a lot
pretty
of
stout money.
Man, my luck, as soon as that thing, we turned it loose, it'd get smoked by cars. It wouldn't make it a day.
We need to get us a doe and tranquilize her or something and haul her over to Alabama and let them artificially inseminate her, bring her back, and turn her loose. That's probably not legal.
No,
I don't think that's legal at all.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how that would work.
So this is kind of off subject, but is it legal to tag deer on your own property?
I'm sure you could.
Like if you brought in somebody like a biologist, tranquilize it, put like a cow tag in its ear.
You would probably have to, they would have
You
to
work
have
with Mississippi
permits.
State some kind of way. I'm sure it's some permitted thing, but you see these collar deer that are out there. Like
we seen them in Colorado.
They released some in Mississippi, like Mississippi State, and they were asking you not to kill them, but they wanted you to report where you were seeing them. They're just trying to observe the migration, or how
how far they move.
travel zones are. Yeah,
We seen several when we were in Colorado. You'd be riding down the road and look. I mean, it was,
Be a collared
was a
elk or
big
mule
collar.
deer.
but
they've got one deer, and they've seen him cross the Mississippi River. I think it's 3 times now, and they've thought he's died every time he's done it because those, I don't know where they collared him at, but he swam the river, went over into Arkansas, stayed over there for a while, and then because he disappeared, and I was like, well, he must have drowned. He didn't make it. That joker came back across the river. They were like, well, here he is. And when they got him coming back across, he laid down for like 3 days, didn't move. They was like, well, he must have died. No, he got off. That deer's done it 2 more times since then. Same deer.
it's something good over in Arkansas. He going after is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the pecans. But, I mean, it shows you, so you say our home range, most of the time they say a buck's, a mile circumference or something like that.
Yeah.
1 mile, you make a circle, and that's about his range. But you've got some that are just nomads.
Yeah, you
They
get
go
in that
wherever.
Delta, it's a lot
Yeah.
bigger than that.
Yeah. And it probably depends on food, cover,
It does.
everything. Why would you move if you've got everything you need? But if if you don't, the population's high, and you got to get out. Maybe you're tired of fighting all these other same old bucks with the same old does. Maybe
So
something new.
a deer that was killed up there by Jay's house in Indiana last year, they had on camera Friday night, past the guy's camera, identical deer. It was at like 10 o'clock at night. The guy killed that deer Saturday morning, 7 miles from where that camera was, Saturday morning at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Mikey, you
I
had
did
one like
that one time. Yeah, I killed one. It was like 4 miles, maybe 5. As a crow flies straight, the farm straight north of us had the deer on camera. Some boys hunted up there. They had him on camera. I killed this buck thinking he was one of the bucks I've been watching all summer. And I shot the deer, and I got down there, and I was like, that ain't him. He's bigger than the one I was watching. And I was like, doggone, I ain't even seen this deer. So anyway, I just figured he just wanted to cruise through. Months later, we were all fishing, and those boys happened to go fishing with us. And he was showing me pictures on his phone of this deer. My brother caught it, and he was like, that looks just like the deer Mikey killed this year. And we got to comparing pictures, and darn if it wasn't the same freaking deer. That deer had traveled almost 5 miles down a ditch. And there's not, as soon as you come off the bluff, it was just nothing but fields. There's one ditch with a tree line that ran from his property to ours. It runs all the way to the Coldwater River.
Yeah.
And those deer, I guess they traveled up and down that ditch. That was their, travel route, was up and down that ditch. And it touched our farm, and it touched his farm. So
That's
what
he just stopped through for a little while, and wrong farm to stop on.
that guy Seek One or whatever that does all the, I guess, city limits hunting, whatever. He got some pretty cool stuff, but that's what he was talking about. The deer he did that him and another guy happened to be hunting in the same city, and they could see how far it was. This guy was seeing on his camera, and he was seeing on his, and it was miles apart.
City to city? Wow.
No, it was inside the
Atlanta to
same
Nashville.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say that.
No, it was inside the same city, but it was
Yeah.
miles apart from where they was hunting at.
Oh, no, they'll amaze you how far they travel.
The one that blows my mind we have is the old kicker deer, 7-point kicker we had last year. He didn't move 100 yards. I mean, you darn
stayed
near
right in
could
there.
call it every
All
day.
last year?
Yeah.
He stayed around that pond.
I mean, he didn't go nowhere.
And then we hadn't seen him on camera
Yeah,
since.
we have.
Oh, you
That's
think so?
him.
You think so?
I think that.
I don't think it's him.
I think it's him.
He didn't grow a whole lot then.
I think it's him. We need to get a biologist to look at them 2 pictures, or somebody that knows more than we do.
Yeah. He was skinny last year, though. So, he should have put on some weight.
But what I was saying about the tags is it would be neat to be able to tag those bucks, at when they're little 4 points and have like, all right, that's number 2. And then you see him next year, you know for a
tags.
fact that's the same one,
Yeah.
See, I hadn't even put that camera over there where I was getting him all last year during bow season and stuff.
Yeah. He was
7-point.
mainly in those persimmons? Is
He
that where-
stayed over at Wayland Stand right there
Yeah.
by that pond.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I seen him laying down, he was always laying around that pond, or he was up there in Wayland's food plot, or he would come in the mud hole every now and then. You'd catch him on that camera.
Did that plot germinate?
Which one?
Where he was hanging out?
There was a little bit out there, not much.
Yeah. If it comes up, he'll probably be back over there. Yeah. Well, there's several persimmon trees in that little
Yeah, I was
corner.
gonna move a camera over there,
And then the acres are dropping down in there probably.
but he stayed there for most of the winter because me and Brian come out one day. It was pouring down rain. He was laying right by the gravel road by a falling down tree.
Just
I mean,
watch
he
it.
wasn't 20 yards off the road.
Yeah.
He just watched me and Brian go by, and I told Brian, "So look at that buck." He said, "Thing ain't." He was surprised it didn't move. As long as we don't stop his
If you don't
golf
stop,
cart,
you just
he-
ease on
yeah,
by. They're
I
going to
said,
stay
he's-
there.
If I hit the brakes, he's gone.
That's it.
Yeah, I seen him twice at pond stand. Brian was hunting with me the one time, but he come out there and fed, and he was chasing does in.
So go back to Jamie's questions here. Does a dominant buck always have the bigger rack?
No.
What do y'all think about that?
No.
I don't think so either. It depends on how scrappy I guess they feel, but it don't mean the biggest ones will be the baddest.
No.
Now,
Depends on how much he wants to fight.
Often they are. So what got me to thinking when he said that, when Jamie wrote that question down, was what do you think about these spikes and 4 points and these little deer? You think they get to breed?
Not much.
I guarantee you they do.
Yeah,
that's breed.
If you watch them chasing,
they just trying to get whatever
all
they can get.
of them's on them. And then them old big ones will get to fighting over them. The old little ones will slip off. And before you know it, he's done bred the doe. Now, a lot of them doe are bred by different deer, too.
Yeah, there's a breakdown of, if you look at it, it'll tell you like by your kind of like by your population. If you have a high population, your 1.5 old and 2.5-year-old deer are your breeders.
Yeah.
Your older buck is probably not, or your more dominant buck is probably not getting to breed the does that he needs to, and these smaller ones are.
Well, if that means
because of the population,
because they got so many does.
If you're getting your tail beat every time you go to try to breed a doe, you gonna move off to the neighbor's property, and hopefully you can get him before the big guy gets there.
Yeah,
we've seen a few last year poking around trying to, I guess, establish dominance.
Yeah, no, they definitely do that. But I mean, there was times in the past several years since we've been hunting there, you get a hot doe, there'll be $5 on her, running her to death. And there ain't nothing like watching a race like that. And they come through and she's done wore out and tongue sticking out and
grunting and
making all the noises they're supposed to make.
You don't hear that often, not unless you're on the other side of the levee. But I think it's dinosaurs down there or something once you cross that levee.
I mean, grunting, yes. Rattling around here, I've never really heard it or had much success with it.
I've heard it.
I've heard it before. I heard it at my house one night. Matter of fact, I called Mikey. It's been a year or two ago, and I took the dogs out, and it was about 9 o'clock. And I was like, "What the heck is that noise?" And it sounded just like you had some bag of rattling horns out there in the woods. And I called Mikey and said, "Do you hear it?" Of course, old timer couldn't hear it, but I could hear it, and I swear up and down that's what it was with 2 bucks down there just fooling around. I don't think they were fighting, but they were just sparring or playing or whatever.
I mean, I've heard them before. The horns hitting together or tinkling together somewhere, them just messing around. I've seen them kind of, bow up on one another and do it a little bit now, like out in Texas where they get down in it and
kicking up
dust. I hadn't seen them do that.
I hadn't had any luck getting them come to it. And
I've seen them push around.
Played with a bunch of bucks with the grunt call, and they do respond to grunt calls.
Yeah, well,
that will piss one off in a heartbeat. You get a buck that's running around there.
You got it turned up too high, it'll turn one the other way too.
Oh yeah, no, I've done that too. Trying to clear the field a lot of times.
Yeah.
Mess with it.
I did that with a buck the first time I ever used a grunt call when I was a kid. You a kid, you buy all that crap.
Oh yeah,
in the store, all the grunt calls and all that. Man, I had that thing turned up on high, up on the dominant buck, and it was a 6-point. Walked out, I hit that thing.
Got gone.
Yeah, he got him some yonder. He was gone.
He'd had enough.
He was,
He knew something wasn't right.
He was like, nope, I'm not going.
Ain't worth getting my tail beat over.
Cost me a deer.
So Jamie, going back to your genetics, what do y'all think is hunting like the way we do? We've got 170 acres on one spot, maybe 150 acres on the other spot. What's the number one thing we can do to improve genetics? Is it kill the inferior looking racks, or what do y'all think?
Feed what you got.
Yeah, no more property than we have. I don't think we would ever affect the genetic makeup. Not with killing so-called cull deer.
Yeah,
I think if you put the food there, you can't do nothing but benefit. Yeah, we're talking about 150, 170 acres here and there, but not doing anything because you don't have a big enough property, you're not going to gain anything. That's definitely not doing.
That's not
good.
The right mindset.
But at least if you got some food there or something, it might not be but a 1% change, but you're doing something beneficial for your property. Period. And definitely thinking, keeping like we've been doing is keeping the food out there, keeping the protein out there. It's not hurting. It may not be game changer in 2 or 3 years, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
You definitely need a management plan no matter what you got.
Yeah, that's what this guy said. He said the only reason to cull bucks is if you have too many. I said if you don't know, that's a problem, whatever. Yes, you need to kill what you classify the coil buck. But I mean, kind of just depends on the hunter and what you decide is your trophy or what you want to take. Too.
That's what I was going to say.
And I think too, you're better off for your bucks managing the does than you are the bucks. I think that's, to me, in the long term, that's better off. I mean, you get some of them does off them food plots, kill you like we did last year. Kill 20 or 30 of them. If you have that population there, you're only giving them bucks more food to eat. It's not overpopulated as much.
Which and that when you said 30, that scares the crap out of a lot of people.
It scared us last year, but we can put a dent in them.
We can look back on cameras from last year and this year. In all honesty, I bet money we got more does on camera this year. I
don't know what happened. It's like
they know where to go, baby.
Yeah,
and we're gonna get 30 more this year. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're gonna have not a high doe kill like we did last year, but we are still gonna continue to manage. I mean, we still need to take a minimum of a doe off of each property.
Mature does.
Each one of us. Yeah.
So that's another question. I wonder what's better to get rid of an old doe
blowing doe
or
blowing
doe.
Old blowing doe.
Blowing doe's got to go.
I mean, if
yes, but I mean,
I think so.
Me
Yeah, but
personally, I'm gonna try to shoot a doe if she don't have any babies with her.
I can't shoot. That's something
If she don't, now I'm not shooting one that's
I
got
can't.
yearlings with her. I'm just not. But if I see one that does not have babies with her, and she's a decent size or bigger doe, and she's by herself, and sometimes you can tell those old does,
Granny doe.
Yeah, especially when they're in a group, you're like, ooh, I'm getting
good
that.
Like
Do you
they're
wait?
gray looking.
So
They
you
the
wait
same
on
color.
that last, like that old doe is going to be the last one that comes out.
Yeah.
They're going to let those yearlings hit the field first. Then your younger does are going to come out, but that last one's going to come out and not hardly feed. She's alert.
That's not a good grandmother. You think about it. She sends them out in the war zone first. We're gonna see if they get shot.
I've watched that time after time with different groups, and they all do it. They all let the older, those old does that's been breeding a while will be the last one. They're like the old buck.
Yeah.
I know. Hit the field last.
I want the field to, let them come on out and look and see. Try to figure out who's with who. Which one of my yearlings, if they got yearlings out there is with who. Because we see those big groups of does that come out. And most people do in Mississippi because we're highly populated just about everywhere. But you see those groups of 8, 10, 12
family
does.
groups.
Yeah, family groups that come through. So I'm going to try to look and see, I want them all to get out there. And that way I can pick which one, this one's kind of staying to herself and these kind of fed on over there a little bit. I'm going to clip this one off right here.
Man, I had one last year in the pond stand field, and it was probably about 7 or 8 does out there. And the one I wanted, like you said, you waited, let them all come out there, and you can tell she's got a long old nose on her. She's bigger body. She's gray in color. She's a different color than the rest of them.
She's going to look dead at that deer stand when she walks in the field,
every
too.
time.
Every time, yeah.
But what she did, and I know this is just coincidence, she wasn't planning this, but she never would step out away by herself. She always had another doe right beside her.
Yeah.
Like she stayed behind one the whole time, and I'm like, this doe ain't never going to step out. And it took 30, 45 minutes with them feeding before she ever got out there and I got a shot on that deer. But
I mean, and from a numbers thing, I don't think it. If you got numbers that you got to take off, the mouths you want to take off, it don't matter which.
At that point, it don't matter if you got.
You kill all three, the 2 little ones, the mama. I mean, they're going to eat just as much groceries.
Yeah,
it ain't going to be
it
ain't going to be any difference.
Yeah,
if you're trying to control population, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to.
You
can't, because you'll pick and choose till you ain't killed none, and then you've really screwed up.
Jamie.
That's what I did last year.
But last year, we did that.
We made up
year.
for you though.
Yeah.
That's how we went into it last year. We
let the kids
told us,
pop
get the
off.
mouths off the field.
Yeah.
I don't care if you killed
Spikes,
what
does,
you kill,
whatever
get
it
them
is.
off the field.
Yeah.
He said, y'all have to. You ain't got a choice.
See, that's what I did. I had old doe come out. There was some yearlings. They was off to the side, and there was another doe with them, and the old doe was by herself. I'm like, that's the one I'm going to shoot. Had crosshairs on her, and I was waiting for her to turn just right. Man, one of them yearlings went to nursing. I felt bad. I'm glad.
Jamie done put the
I didn't
family
shoot.
tree together.
Yeah,
he was
I'm glad I
like,
didn't
"That's
shoot."
Aunt Betsy.
Yeah.
I can't take her. She carries them to the grocery store. That's old Aunt Betty there." And
I do get soft-hearted.
I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but if you'll shoot that mama doe and them
This
two
is Malcolm.
youngins stay out there, them youngins that'll be their home. They're not going anywhere else. They're going to grow up and they're going to
Malcolm trying to have a foster care down there
Got
for
a
deer.
strategy.
I guarantee you, I've got plots to where I've shot the mama doe, left the little. I mean, the little one's eating. It's not still nursing, it ain't spots, but that deer's there every day, and they'll get almost tame where they know you by then.
We grew up different.
Then you got live decoys. Is the way I look at it. I got a live decoy out there. The mama's gone. I got the little one out there, and he'll come up. I just want him to run around and make the other deer feel safe.
No, so
I'll make a deal with him. He wants to sign a contract.
my Uncle
We're gonna
Jimmy
let you
had a
get a
different
pass.
strategy. It was like you shoot the mama deer, the babies run off, but they're going to come back and shoot them too.
That's what I was fixing to say.
That's his
Most people
strategy.
that meat hunting, that's their strategy.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to clip off the biggest one, and the little ones will come back and go and get them when they come back.
I ain't saying it ain't sad. Now, I've had some where they come over and nudge him a little bit. He shot one.
Daggone, Malcolm.
Well, I got mentally broke the first doe I killed. I didn't make the best shot, but I broke her down, and she went to bleating. And, man, that's the most horrible sound in the woods you can possibly ever hear.
Jamie
That's
ain't
all
shot-
Jamie hears every time he sees a doe
Yeah,
walking.
yeah.
Haunts him
That's
at
horrible.
night.
Man.
I was so little, I didn't know if that was like a distress call. That's going to come attack me, or
Just
that was
throw
like,
on.
y'all come get me, or what?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen.
That's me. That's my thinking too. Is this is what we need to get Jamie to do? Is just when they step in that field, blast him. Like, don't try to set a storyline up. Just get it.
Yeah.
You
Don't
know?
worry about it. Just go ahead and make that ideal up.
Yeah, as soon as that shoulder hits that food plot, get him.
I mean, last year, man, you did that. I mean, we were on a doe mission.
Don't miss it.
We went out. We're getting the does. We're behind. We're fixing to clip off some does. So me and you sat together on the
Yeah.
field. We knew
That
does.
was when Outlaw was here.
Yeah, y'all was in the other field doing the same thing. So first doe came out, pow.
I'm glad y'all did.
Never
That's the only
checked
way I
Yeah,
got some
they
deer
were
meat
checking
was
up. Second
y'all's.
doe came up. Same
Yep.
thing.
Second doe came up. We didn't check up. Bow on the ground. Mark and them got what y'all.
I
got,
wasn't
two?
finna leave the party without it. I wasn't gonna shoot a doe that day. I was gonna let Jay shoot him one. He shot one, and then you shot one, and then you shot one, and then Mikey sent a little smart mouth text, said, "Where you at, Mark?" And I was like, "Give me that rifle. Let's go. We finna get us one now."
I had to motivate you. You said, "Oh, we're sleeping."
And then the neighbor thinks we're shooting everything that walks.
Oh, it sounded like a war that day.
The bad thing is you got to clean all those, and so we had work to do. And that's where the work starts. But sometimes you got to get those off the field.
It sounds bad, and we're laughing about it. I mean, it's
not.
No, it's not.
bad.
Because
I mean,
you're
It's
helping.
ethical. It's being ethical.
This is how you got to look at it. Would you rather
that deer
that
starved to
deer
death.
be shot and somebody benefit from his food and something come from that deer, or it lay out
So
there and die from
that's
some disease or hit by a
exactly-
car or
right.
whatever?
That's exactly what happened that day. Is we killed 4 does. It was 4 of us in the stands. We dressed 2 of them. That's the 2 you got.
Yep.
Dressed 2 more. We gave it to that family out
Yeah,
of
fed another
Memphis
family.
that drove all the way down there. And you'd have thought, I mean, that was the best thing they've had. They were tickled to death.
And we did talk about that. Like, what? I'd be curious too. If somebody would respond back to something. What's available in Mississippi or
We
used
got
to-
to find. We need to do some
Yeah.
research on that and find, but
like
somewhere
different
to take
families or
deer
organizations? I know
yeah.
used to the sheriff's department would take them for the trustees and stuff to have, but I don't think you can do that now.
If it would go to a needy family,
I'm
talking
down
about
for
like
it.
a needy family. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about just somebody that wants some deer meat.
Want some
You
free
just
deer
want
meat
some
without
free
dressing.
deer
Yeah,
meat.
free
You get
dressed.
a deer with the hair on it. I
free
get the
dressed
guts out.
processed deer
Yeah.
meat. But
But if it goes to a needy family, I would process it
I agree.
and put it in Ziploc bags or vacuum seal it and give
Show
it.
them how to prep it. Anything, help them out.
But somebody just get me one. All right, I'll call you.
And I spoke about Seek One. I believe that's what they're working on, doing something similar to that, like around the Nashville or Atlanta area.
There's bound to be a program, and if not, man, anybody listening, let us know if you're in North Mississippi area, you got a family in need. I mean, that's what we're here for. So we're definitely gonna put some does on the ground for sure.
Yeah, I know Hunter told us last week that they were donating a lot of their meat and stuff that didn't get picked up from processors to Palmer Home.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other organizations, churches, or things like that would like to take it processed. Now, you still got to process it. They ain't going to just come pick it up. I don't
Yeah.
think.
But I mean, if we quarter it out, debone it, get it to where it's manageable,
Yeah.
man, that's huge.
Throw it in a styrofoam cooler, and the average family could, heck, be good eating
Meat
for
for
sure.
a while.
So, Jamie, what you got on this top 10 list or these 10 points I see on this other page?
Oh, that was just some information. That wasn't. That was some of the research stuff I done.
I thought it was pretty interesting just glancing
is,
through
yeah.
it here, though. I mean, some of it we've already hit on, but like this number 1, it says antler development is genetically based. Not all deer have the same genetic potential. That's true. That's a true fact. I mean, they're not all going to be wall hangers, but that goes back to something you mentioned earlier. It's like if that deer, it's a cold deer. I mean, whether it's a cold deer or not a cold deer, if it makes you feel good about
That's what
shooting
this one
it
guy
and
said.
taking it,
If your heart's pumping and you're shaking,
that's a trophy to you.
yeah.
What's a trophy to? I mean, maybe what's a trophy to me? Definitely ain't a trophy to some of these guys that got big deer, giant deer on the wall. But I've never killed anything like that.
Yeah.
So Who are you to judge somebody for killing a 4-point or 6-point or whatever if they like it? That doesn't necessarily have to be a cull deer.
That's mentality you got to get rid of. Somebody, if you got that bad attitude, that could ruin somebody's whole outlook on hunting. They're like, well, I'm never going to kill the deer that he kills on his hunting club. So you don't.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
No, that's right. What's a trophy to you is going to be totally different to me, or what gets you pumped is going to get me be different for me, whatever.
A prime example of that we experienced was when we used to hunt up there on Bahia Road. We called it Stanley's, and this was maybe 100 acres, 110 acres ish.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lease. We just were friends with the family. They let us hunt it. Nobody else hunted it, and it was just a bottom land. I don't think nobody's hunted in years. And we get up there and started hunting it, and it was unreal, the bucks we had up there. Like, if we could have took what we're doing now and done that up there, it is no telling what kind of deer we could have produced.
We had a lot more deer on the wall.
Oh, yeah. And just like we had a family guy that went up there and hunted, and what was that deer he killed? 162?
160 something.
Yeah, I mean, it was a monstrous deer for us. And then we never seen that deer. We didn't know where that deer come from. I mean, but it was heck of a freaking deer. And we've all had good bucks from up there. And that was just back when we just deer hunted, deer hunted to deer hunt kind of hunting. And it's potential. You never know.
Yeah, if you want to get back on that list, nutrition, it definitely does affect antler growth for sure.
And I think, like we talked about, that's the number one thing we can do as small farm owners.
And I know we
help the genetics is the nutrition.
You got to keep that food on the ground for them year round.
A healthy deer is going to make a better deer regardless of what it is.
Increases your chance.
You don't know what time of the year. We don't really know. We're not biologists, so we really don't know what time of the year are they really struggling for food. Is it January? Yeah, probably so. January, February. Then you get into March, things start greening up. Is that all get wiped out? Is that stuff just bloom certain times of the year and only come up for a month or so, and then it's gone, and now they're back to nothing again? And so you need to leave that stuff out there for them, regardless of, what you have on your farm. At least leave some kind of food out there for them. If they're not eating it, that's fine. They're probably eating something in the woods, but at least leave an option for them to come back to.
Yeah, number 3 reinforces that, Jamie. It says early or late birth doesn't affect the antler development
if you got that nutrition.
If the deer receives the nutrition. Right. So that shows you got a large population. They're dropping fawns a wide range of time. As long as you got the food out there for those fawns, they still have the potential to put on racks.
And I know we're beating a dead horse with this nutrition and our food plot, stuff like that, but to see the difference we've seen in 2 or 3 years, it's amazing. It's definitely, I think everything goes back to that.
Now, this number 4 one's probably controversial. It says that yearling spike bucks will produce smaller and fewer points in the following years than the fork antler yearlings.
So
I believe that.
Yeah, no. Like I said, some of this stuff was I gather some of the information.
It's saying sites, it says in the next fewer points in the next
following years,
like just
down the line,
all the way.
Yeah, it says spikes will produce fewer points than forks. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
I don't think so.
Because the studies of Mississippi State have shown that you could have these deer that were spiked for 2 or 3 years turn into big rack bucks.
Maybe because he fell late in the cycle.
Maybe
he's starting out
with a spike. Next year he's going to be a 4-point.
Yeah.
On that other page, it's actually by the same study that you just read that from. It says the best sets of antlers produced over 15 years out of deer they done studies on was 168 and 195 inch deer. Both were 3 points as yearlings.
See, you would have not known that.
I've
seen some yearlings that are 4 points. I mean, they come out. I think that's an old crab claw gene a lot of times,
And I think too, a lot of that is how I'm understanding that is, it's a spike this year. It might be a 4-point next year, whereas the first year buck might have been a 4-point. He's going to be a 6. So it's not that
you would think, but I don't think it's. Do you think that's necessarily true?
Well, I'm just thinking because he's got
a little bit behind.
He's behind, so he may still be a 10-point, but it might take him one more year.
Yeah, he might once he gets to 3 or 4, he's there. He's done caught up and starts.
I think once again it goes back to those 2 deer probably have the same genes, but nutritional wise, something one of them got superior nutrition to help him grow.
Especially on the same property, it's very, very, very likely because your buck doe ratio's out. Them 2 bucks them 2 yearlings that were born got the same dad. I mean,
Yeah, that would be an interesting study. Say if you had 2 twin bucks,
Yeah,
to see nutritionally if you change their nutrition,
they'll stay the same.
if the bucks would be. I mean, because a lot of times they're not identical twins. They could have different dads, I guess.
It was one
That
study that I
happens,
looked
but-
at that it was they did this. It wasn't necessarily it was twins, but it was yearlings from the same doe, and they was both high fence farm raised deer, but they exposed them to different nutrition and
See what it would do to
it did affect the antler growth.
See, that goes to
So that means
they had the same
before
genes
to see if they could, So they hopefully they done a comparison. If they did that comparison, then they did it with all of them getting the same thing and seeing if they
changed.
stayed the same.
Yeah,
And
have a
again,
control.
Yeah, and controlled them on the first one, and then the next one give this one this and this one this, and it changed it. So it does make a difference.
So that shows me that genetics isn't an important factor. It's nutrition.
Nutrition, not
When they're building antlers, it's nutrition.
That's what it says. Well, skipping one, but it says like the average yearling bucks on a good range, which good property, good nutrition, were 6 points as 2-year-old deer.
Well, so we've seen that. We've seen that with our racks where we went from getting these scraggly little 3-point, 4-point 2-year-old deers to having little 8 points or little 10 points. We've got a young. This deer's
10.
2.5 years old at the best, and he's a perfect little 10. And that's the deer right there. So you're talking about what we're doing. A lot of we hadn't killed a ton of 10-point bucks. I know, but I know the kids that hunt with us hadn't killed any. But those are off limits. We're not killed. That's the kind of deer you want to control genetics. Don't kill those 2.5s with pretty racks. Yeah. Give them a year or two and see what they do. Instead of saying, "Oh, we're going to kill these young, spikes and 3 points and 4 points." But
we're saying let that deer walk. Don't get discouraged because we are talking about managing small property.
Yeah, somebody else could kill him.
It may walk across that fence and that'd be his last step he takes. But
that goes back. That could be. Hopefully, that's what that small 6 point we passed got that guy or that kid pumped up and excited. It might be the first deer or whatever,
And that goes back to what we discussed before is, get to know your neighbors and see what their game plan is, if they're wanting to manage or if they're just hunting meat. And if they're just hunting meat, hey, man, tell them to get some does with you,
Yeah.
You can work with your neighbors and you can make this plan work, no doubt.
But when they see this one now, when they're talking about an average yearling buck should have 6 points, we don't see that very often. When I say yearling buck, I'm thinking of
one year
spots. You're talking about 1.5-year-old buck.
Yeah.
So it's a second set of horns, really. I could see that, maybe.
Yeah, he was born in July, June, something like that, May. And then the next May or June is where he should be at 6 points.
I never thought about that. We kill a deer in hunting season, it's always a half a year old.
Always.
It's never going to be, that's a 4-year-old buck. It's going to be a 4.5-year-old buck.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
if you count them like that,
that's weird. I never thought about it in depth like that. Dang, I feel like I'm freaking building out of the science guy now.
No, I tell you what, Jamie, this is a really interesting topic when we talk genetics because, you think it sounds like on small pieces of property that we have, we can't do nothing. We can definitely do something.
Yeah.
And everybody can. And number one thing is the nutrition.
Number one thing is to manage your herd enough to, and I'm not talking about like manage them, killing them. I'm talking about manage them with the food. Try to get your ratios right, get your population to where it needs to be at, and let those deer have an opportunity to hit their full potential.
That's right.
So yeah, like all this stuff, with these numbers we were talking about on this list, it was done over 15 years on 150. It says on 150 deer they had in a controlled environment or herd or whatever, and that's what the results they come up with out of 150 deer.
All right.
Well, we'll talk about nutrition.
Have y'all ate
what kind of nutrition we got? I guess it does work for humans too. You know,
where are we at on our? So we released a couple videos. Mikey did the breakfast. Jamie did some breakfast. You did the melted cheese and biscuits.
Actually, had a couple people this weekend at Water Tower
tried the melted cheese.
The melted cheese.
Can't go wrong with the melted cheese.
Cheese is good.
Yeah.
Laugh at it all you want. It's just melted cheese, but dadgum, it's good.
It's time for what's the first one of yours? Do you know which one of yours is coming out first?
Gravy should be hitting this week. So
we're back on breakfast again.
Good nutrition.
Deer camp. That's what deer camp's known for.
It's breakfast. Yeah.
And I thought about it this weekend, and either youth hunt opening weekend or opening weekend, I'm gonna do ribeye steaks and eggs for breakfast for everybody. So we're gonna do steak
after
eggs
the hunt.
After the hunt.
Okay.
Yeah, after the hunt. I gotta go get my does off the list, man. We gotta knock them out.
So there's gonna be steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs. Might do some hash browns. eggs over easy with a little runny yolk on top of that ribeye.
That's going to be deer camp breakfast, right? That's gourmet right there,
We
Mark.
got you some ribeyes back here.
Yeah, we got some we got to go cut up, get ready for deer camp that was left over.
Have y'all cooked anything last week? Deer camp or hunting related?
I cooked chili yesterday.
It was 70 degrees.
Hey, I don't know what it was. I woke up. It was football Sunday. I said, man, it was cooler in the morning when I let the dog out. So I was like, it's a good day to make some chili. So I went to Kroger and got the stuff to make chili and come home, made a big old pot yesterday and had chili dogs. Got them big old colossal Nathan dogs.
Man, them are good.
I did something like Shell does this, and normally I would either boil the dogs or, cook them some other way. But I throw them. Shell's like, just throw them off in the chili. Man, you take them old dogs when you get your pot of chili done and simmer down for a while and put the dogs in the chili.
Cook in there?
Yeah, let them cook.
A real
in the
chili dog.
Then you got to get some. You can't stir it much after that because the dog's in there.
You have dog
You
chunks.
get tongs and you get tongs and you put it out on your bread and it's hot. The
We're
chili's
doing that.
hot. Then you cover it with shredded cheese and hit it with some jalapenos. Man, that's a chili dog.
Oh no, me and Malcolm were talking about a deer chili earlier this morning.
Yes,
we're gonna do that one for sure too.
That one's gonna be one of the ones coming up. That and the tacos.
Yeah, deer taco sounded really good.
I've been saving on my brisket trimming, so we're gonna have some good beef fat this year for sure.
The grind. Hey, always do that. I mean, if you're cooking barbecue like we do, and you have leftover pork fat trimmings and brisket trimmings, bundle that stuff up and freeze it, and wait till deer season and grind it up with your meat.
Make some good burgers.
Heck yeah, it does. Breakfast sausage, deer breakfast sausage, and ground deer burgers. Hard to beat.
Good.
Hey, we're finna leave here and go get lunch, ain't we?
I hope so. I'm about to starve.
Well, Mark, you want to tell everybody where they can find us this week?
Man, they can find us on all the social media platforms, you name it. TikTok, we'll have stuff hitting it this week. Of course, YouTube, all the podcast platforms, and man, we appreciate the support, man. This is overwhelming support we've seen in the last few months, and it's awesome to see Buck Junkies grow, and I can't wait to see where it's going.
We're learning.
Y'all keep watching for more of these recipes we've been doing too, because they're a lot of fun. Y'all might get some ideas for some deer camp stuff coming up.
I know it's
Got
some good
ones coming.
Yeah,
Got some
smoked
good
smash burgers was on point.
Oh yeah, deer smash burger. God, I forgot about those.
Yeah, those are good ones.
We're going to lunch.
Jamie's,
we're going to lunch.
Jamie's old soup. That was a good one too. That one's coming sometime soon. Well, hey, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week to talk more about our favorite thing. That's deer hunting.
Let's go.
We gone.